Listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. You will have time to read the instructions and questions and you will be given time to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts.
Now turn to part 1.
You will hear a man booking a tourist tour. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You can see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Hello, Mr. Smith. How can I be of assistance today?
Good morning. I would like to book a tour to Sydney.
The man answers the question. Tour to Sydney. So the word Sydney has been written on the top of the form. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully, and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, Mr. Smith. How can I be of assistance today?
Good morning. I would like to book a tour to Sydney.
I can help you with that. What would you like to see?
As much of Sydney as possible. What are my choices?
There are a number of choices. What type of tour would you like? A pedestrian tour or bus tour?
I think I'll choose the bus tour.
There's a hop-on hop-off bus tour that takes you around to the Harbour Bridge, the Opera House and the Queen Victoria Building.
I think it's a good option. Is there a set timetable for the tour?
No. The buses run in a loop around the city all day.
And what hours do the buses operate?
They run from 7 a.m. in the morning until 9 p.m. each night.
That sounds nice.
Yes. And the closest stop is just 20 meters out from here, at the front of the hotel.
Now listen, and answer questions 6 to 10.
What ticket types do you have?
We have 3 ticket types. The first one is called Minimal, and it is the cheapest tariff. It costs only $15 and you can use such ticket during 2 hours.
Oh, I want to see as much of Sydney as possible. Do you have full-day tickets?
Yes, sure. The next ticket type we have is Standard. It's the most popular type. This pass costs $30 and lasts all day.
This sounds nice.
We also have a premium ticket. You can buy it for $55. This pass lasts all day and includes free drinks and snacks during your trip. And you will be provided with an audio guide.
I think I'll buy the premium ticket.
Great!
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Part 2.
You will hear the information about tickets to one of the royal palaces in London. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. As you listen to the first part of the talk, answer questions 11 to 15.
So you've finally decided to start a fitness program and are now on the lookout for the perfect gym to join. Fitnessland is an ideal gym for both group trainings and individual workout. We offer you a variety of sports facilities, which will make your training effective and pleasant. One of the most famous are our yoga classes. We have 7 different yoga programs, including Yogalates, Yoga Nidra and Hatha Yoga. We also want to open Pilates section soon, which will combine relaxation techniques and keep fit exercises. For those people who seek cardio and fat burn workouts, we offer a lot of active classes. For instance, if you love dancing, you can go to our step dance classes. These classes are famous for their intensive rhythm, and include many elements from dancing classes and aerobics classes. At the moment we don't have aerobics or belly dance programs, so step dance can be a good alternative. We also offer great barbell workouts for people who want to build muscle. These classes use very effective strength training strategy and are very helpful for both men and women. There is also a kickboxing room in our gym, where you can find all essential facilities to practice kickboxing yourself. And group programs are likely to open in the next season. But Zumba fitness programs and stretching workouts are already running, so be quick to take part in these wonderful activities.
Now listen, and answer questions 16 to 20.
And now I'd like to present you the timetable of fitness programs for the coming week. Monday is dedicated to muscle building activities. You'll begin the weekly program with a full body training split, meaning you'll train all major body parts in each workout. Such fitness classes are designed by famous bodybuilders and sport professionals who are passionate for training others. On Tuesday we offer a variety of fat loss activities. These are high-intensity classes that require a lot of physical effort. So we recommend to drink much water during such classes. We also have something called healthy body activities. These activities run on Wednesday. During these programs, you'll do keep fit exercises in a moderate rhythm, alternating upper body and lower body workouts. The next day come relaxation activities. These activities are developed for physical, mental and spiritual practice, and include different kinds of yoga and pilates. Friday is the last day of the week with group activities, in particular interval trainings. Such programs involve series of low to high intensity exercise workouts, interspersed with rest or relief periods. We hope that you'll find your ideal activities in this timetable. But don't forget that you can train individually any day of the week.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Part 3.
You will hear a discussion between a tutor and an education student called Sandy about the student's dissertation. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hello, Sandy. How have you been getting on with your dissertation?
Fine. And I've been working hard on the various action points we agreed on our last tutorial.
Do you want to talk me through what you've done?
Yeah, sure. Well, we agreed on 3 main targets for me to aim for. The first one was to find out about suitable data analysis software.
Yes.
And what I decided to do was to look through catalogues specialising in IT.
That's a good idea. What did you come up with?
I found the names of 2 promising ones.
Right.
But I also thought it'd be worthwhile talking to a lecturer.
Oh, right. Who did you see?
Jane Prince. Do you know her? She's in the computer centre?
Yes, of course. She's the new head.
Yes, well, she was very helpful.
Oh, that's good. Did she suggest anything in particular?
Yeah, she recommended software called Vivat and said I should book up for a couple of practice sessions using Vivat.
Great. I'm sure you'll find them useful.
And, of course, the second target was to draw up a survey checklist, which
Yes, you emailed me it last week.
Have you had a chance to look?
Of course. I think it's good. Very much on the right lines. I'd say your first 2 sections are spot on.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't suggest that you change anything there, but in section 3 you really do need to have questions on teaching experience.
Yeah, I was thinking that section looked a bit short.
Right.
And my third target was do further reading on discipline.
Oh, yes. I mentioned a couple of writers, didn't I?
Yes, well, I got hold of the Banerjee, and I thought that was excellent, but I'm afraid I didn't manage to get hold of the essays about classroom management. You know, the ones by Simon Erickson. The bookshop said it was out of print, and the library doesn't have a copy.
Oh, right. And I'm afraid I've lent my copy to another student. What I suggest you do is try the library again. This time apply for it through the service called Special Loans. Have you done that before? You're entitled to 6 books a year.
Yes, no problem. That's what I'll do.
So, lots of useful work done.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
So let's look at some new targets. We'll start by having a chat about your Chapter 1. I very much enjoyed reading it. Your written style is very clear, and you've included lots of interesting descriptions of education in your target area. I've just got a couple of suggestions for some additional work.
Of course. Could I just ask, what do you think I should call it?
Well, I'd go for something like context review. What do you think?
Well, short and to the point.
Exactly. Now, as regards specific areas to work on, I'd be quite interested to have a few more statistics about the schools in the different zones.
Oh, that wouldn't be a problem. I can get them from the internet.
Great. And although you did make a reference to quite a few different writers, I think you should aim to cite more works written later than 2000.
OK. That's more difficult, but I can try. When do you want that done by?
Oh, it's not urgent. I should aim for the end of term. But in the meantime, I think you should also be thinking about Chapter 2.
Should I be drafting it already?
No, but I think you should note down its main sections.
Yes. You know, I always find that the hardest part...
I always find it helpful to put some ideas on index cards.
Yeah.
And then you can sort them and even lay them out on the floor. It's a real help.
Well, I'll certainly try it. When would the deadline be for that?
My advice would be to get it done before you embark upon the research. You can always change it later if you need to.
OK, I'll get going on that then.
That is the end of Part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 3. Part 4.
You will hear a podcast about technology and mental health. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
I spoke to psychologist Tomasz Chamorro-Premuzic about the risks he believes are posed by social media and technology.
If narcissism is fire, Facebook is gasoline. So people wouldn't have gravitated towards Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat if they hadn't been narcissistic in the first place. By which I mean, if they hadn't had this desire to broadcast their lives, to behave like celebrities and share personal information about themselves as if it's really interesting, and also seek positive feedback from others that reinforces their kind of self-concept and self-esteem and perhaps self-centered needs. Now, it is also true that if you throw gasoline into the fire, these inherent tendencies, narcissistic tendencies that were there in the first place will become more exaggerated. And research has shown this. Research has shown, a very simple summary of the studies is that the more narcissistic you are, the more time you are likely to spend on these various social networks, but at the same time, the more time you spend on these social networks, the more narcissistic you become.
So really it's a snowballing effect.
Exactly. And the depression one is a different kind of phenomenon. It's the fact that a lot of people spend so much time following or snooping on others on social media, and they're unaware of the fact that the people that they are seeing there are not the real people they know. And because most people portray themselves in an unrealistically positive vein, and Facebook and other social networks encourage the suppression of negative emotions and reward the presentation or display of positive emotions, it makes people miserable and depressed to see others as so happy, because you compare yourself to others and you're like, why aren't I so successful, so good looking, or so, happy?
Okay, so when we're talking about tech and also about the impact of technology on our behaviour, I think something that's, again, garnering quite a lot of attention is the impact of screen time on well-being, on performance, on cognitive ability and development when we're looking at younger people. And there was an interesting piece in Ars Technica that cited two separate studies that have been conducted in the US. The first was by Common Sense Media, which looked at just under 3,000 US children aged 8 to 18 about their media habits. And they found that teenagers were spending about 9 hours a day online with media, and tweens, so 8 to 12-year-olds, were using media for about 6 hours a day. So this is within quite a substantial amount of time, and then also a time in which they'd probably be better off outside playing or socialising in person with other people. Do you think that there's an impact there on, for instance, being able to read emotional cues or being able to form relationships in a way that's deep and meaningful? Is there anything to suggest that that's starting to be compromised because of our use of screens and tech?
So we don't have solid or reliable data on this yet, but at least conceptually, it would make sense. We all come to the world with a set of really basic and rudimentary skills that are developed or nurtured when they are put into practice or when we interact with the right triggers of these skills in the environment. So much like growing up isolated from others in a basement will lead to not having many social skills. If you grow up in the digital world mostly and you don't have much time to practice face-to-face interaction, you probably won't develop many people skills. The other thing that is, of course, problematic is that, if people were spending 6 or 10 hours online reading books or getting educated, you could argue at least they're developing intellectual skills or intellectual curiosity, but that's not the case. At most they can spend 18 minutes on a TED Talk, which will give them, more, it's edutainment rather than education. So it's the stuff that people do when they're online that is most problematic.
And what about things like the sensory input that we receive? So, for instance, if you've got very young children, aged 6 to 12 months to 18 months, who are looking at screens instead of looking out and developing depth of field, what might that do for their development potentially in the longer term?
One could argue that if for them adaptation to the world will be even more technologically mediated, it's okay, so it would only be a problem if you put them in a farm, ask them to hunt animals, or force them live in an Amish community. So, in that sense, the average 5-year-old today is better equipped to interact with much of the industrialized world than a 60-year-old or 70-year-old, because they can pick up any gadget and they know how it works. So I think the main deficit is around social and emotional skills. Connecting through people via technology is very different than having an effective face-to-face interaction. And so until this date, for example, we haven't worked out a way in which people can reproduce via technological means. The fact maybe we will, and maybe virtual reality can generate this in the future. But it's been pointed out many times that there are now more iPhones being sold every year, every day, not just every year, than people being born. And this difference between these two numbers keeps increasing. I think probably there's a causal relationship. The more time people spend on their smartphones or interacting with technology, the less time they have for physical interactions with others. So until we work out how to do certain things online, offline is the way to go. And most people now, young people, don't have these capabilities to develop certain skills in the physical or analog world.
So we've heard how tech can have adverse effects on our mental state, but how is it being used in a positive way to help us? With us in the studio today to discuss, we have psychotherapist Dr. Gillian Isaacs-Russell, author of new book, Screen Relations, The Limits of Computer-Mediated Psychoanalysis and Psychotherapy. We also have Dr. Richard Dobson, who's head of the bioinformatics at the NIHR Biomedical Research Centre for Mental Health, and the tech team's own Hannah Jane Parkinson. Welcome, everybody. So, Gillian, may I start with you? So you're a practicing psychotherapist. How do you find that tech has affected your profession? So maybe with the advent of remote online therapy, should we start there?
Yes. Well, I actually have done quite a bit of technologically mediated treatment, partly because I moved from the UK in 2008 to a remote area in the Black Hills of South Dakota, but wanted to keep practicing. And so I attempted to use a platform like Skype in order to see patients, and thought that it was going to really help me to avoid any of the pitfalls of space, distance, time. I could just be anywhere, anytime. And what I discovered, and what led to my research and this book, was that there are some very distinct differences between working on the screen and working co-presently in the room.
So we're all familiar with this idea of traditional Jungian psychoanalysis of lying back in a room on a couch and having our dreams interpreted and being in relationship present with the psychotherapist. But that's not the kind of therapy that we're talking about when we're talking about screen-mediated therapy. What have you seen in terms of the change and possibly the use of CBT with screen-mediated technology, and why is it suitable for online use?
I think that the therapies like CBT or positive psychology, self-help, could be very appropriate for online use because they are didactic. They aren't based in a relationship. And the kind of talking therapies that you were referring to earlier are actually very strongly anchored in having a relationship. So if you're actually giving instructions to someone, if you are teaching them something, then of course it can be communicated through a screen. But if you are actually having to pay attention to the implicit, nonverbal part of the relationship, which we must do, then it doesn't come across in the same way. 60% of our communication is nonverbal and implicit. And actually, informatics researchers themselves, that is, specialists in information via technology, are talking about the fact that these kinds of implicit communications can't be carried over a screen at the moment, two-dimensionally.
So do you think that there are risks associated with the more didactic kind of instructive practices like cognitive behavioural therapy, where the patient is getting a list of instructions? Are there risks kind of taking that approach? Can this treatment kind of mask or even potentially worsen real problems?
I think that some of the risks may be that because we're not in the same room, we can't see the whole body. If you've ever worked on screen, you know that it's usually from the shoulders up. We're not able to see a lot of the intimate things that are going on with our patients. And so that means that, for instance, if someone is struggling with an eating disorder, it's going to be very difficult to see where they are in that, which could be dangerous.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
That is the end of the listening test.